Here we go. Okie dokie here. All right, we're streaming live. All right. All right, welcome back, guys. We're back. We're going to be doing the prophets portion now. All right, so we're going to be starting with 2 Kings chapter 4. Like I said, if you have a physical Septuagint, that would be 4 Kings. Okay. All right, here we go. And one of the wives of the sons of the prophets cried to Elisha, saying, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that your servant feared Yahuwah, and the creditors come to take my 2 sons to be his servants." And Elisha said, "What shall I do for you? Tell me about what you have said in the house." And she said, "Your servant has nothing in the house except oil, wherewith I anoint myself." And he said to her, "Go borrow for yourself vessels without of all your neighbors, empty vessels, borrow not a few." Okay. "You shall go in and shut the door upon you and upon your sons, and you shall pour forth into those vessels and remove that which is filled." And she departed from him and shut the door upon herself, upon her sons. They brought the vessels near to her, and she poured in until the vessels were filled. And she said to her sons, "Bring me yet a vessel." And they said to her, "There is not a vessel more." And the oil stayed. And she came and told the man of Elohim, and Elisha said, "Go and sell the oil, and you shall pay the debt, your debts, and you and your sons shall live of the remaining oil." And a day came when Elisha passed over to Solomon, a great lady there, and she constrained him to eat. And it came to pass, as often as he went into, he turned aside to eat there. And the woman said to her husband, "See now, I know that this a set apart man of Elohim who comes over continually to us. Let us now make for him an upper chamber, a small place. Let us put there for him a bed." I find that interesting because what did Yahushua send the disciples to do? To prepare the Passover. What type of room did he want them to find? A upper room. I'm already seeing connections between Elisha and Yahushua here. And a day came, and he went in there and turned aside there into the upper chamber and lay there. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, "Call me the Shunammite." And he called her, and she stood before him. And he said to him, and he said to him, "Say now to her, behold, you have taken all this trouble for us. What should I do for you? Have you any request to the king or to the captain of the army?" And she said, "I dwell in the midst," answered, "I live among my own, of my own people." Okay, yeah. And he said to Gehazi, "What must we do for her?" Gehazi, his servant, said, "Indeed, she has no son, and her husband old." And he called her, and she stood by the door. And Elisha said to her, "At this time, as the season, you alive, embrace a son." She said, "Nay, my master, do not lie to your servant." So basically, he's saying to you, you are going to conceive a son. And the woman conceived and bore a son at the very time as the season was being alive, and the season being alive is probably referring to the spring. That's when everything starts growing again. Okay, so the Septuagint's like basically giving you the definition of what it means the following year. Okay, when the year starts. The year does not start in December, people. Does not start in the dead of winter. Okay. Child grew, and it came to pass that he went out to his father to the reapers. Again, the reapers. Where have we heard that before? I don't know. Matthew 13, maybe? And he said to his father, my head, my head. And his father said to his servant, carry him to his mother. And he carried him to his mother, and he lay upon her knees till noon and died. Which is kind of interesting. He died at noon. Okay, let's see here. She shut the door upon him and went out. And she called her husband and said, send now for me one of the young men and one of the donkeys, and I will ride quickly to the man of Elohim and return. And he said, why are you going to him today? It is neither the new moon nor the Sabbath. And she said, it is well. So meaning, like, why are you coming to him? You know, it's not a special day or anything. Why are you going to travel all the way over there? It's not a special occasion. And she saddled the donkey and said to her servant, be quick, proceed, spare not on my account to ride, unless I shall tell you, go, and you shall proceed, and come to the man of Elohim to Mount Carmel. And she rode and came to the man of Elohim to the mountain. And it came to pass when Elisha saw her coming that he said to Gehazi, his servant, see now that Shunammite woman. Now run to meet her, and you shall say, well with you, well with your husband, well with the child. And she said, well. And she came to Elisha to the mountain and laid hold of his feet. And Gehazi drew near to thrust her away. And Elisha said, let her alone, for her soul's much grieved in her. And Yahuwah has hidden from me and has not told me. And she said, did I ask a son of my master? For did I not say, do not deal deceitfully with me? And Elisha said to Gehazi, gird up your loins and take your staff in your hand and go. If you meet any man, you shall not salute him. And if a man salutes you, you shall not answer him. And you shall lay my staff on the child's face. And the mother of the child said, as Yahuwah lives and your soul lives, I will not leave you. And Elisha arose and went after her. And Gehazi went on before her and laid his staff on the child's face, but there was neither voice nor any hearing. So he returned to meet him and told him, saying, the child is not awakened. Okay. And Elisha went into the house, and behold, the dead child was laid upon his bed. And Elisha went into the house and shut the door upon themselves, the two, and prayed to Yahuwah. And he went up and laid upon the child and put his mouth upon his mouth and his eyes upon his eyes and his hands upon his hands, and bowed himself upon him. And the flesh of the child grew warm. And he returned and walked up and down in the house. And he went up and down and bowed himself on the child 7 times. And the child opened his eyes. And Elisha cried out to Gehazi and said, call this Shunammite. So he called her, and she came into him. And Elisha said, take your son. And the woman went in and fell at his feet and did obeisance to the ground. She took her son and went out. And Elisha returned to Galgala, and a famine was in the land. The sons of the prophets sat before him. And Elisha said to his servant, set on the great pot and boil pottage for the sons of the prophets. And he went out into the field and gathered herbs and found a vine in the field and gathered of it wild gourds and his garment full. And he cast it into the cauldron of pottage, for they knew not. And he poured it out for the men to eat. And it came to pass, when they were eating of the pottage, that lo, they cried out and said, death in the pot, O man of Elohim. And they could not eat. And he said, take meal and cast it into the pot. And Elisha said to his servant Gehazi, pour out for the people and let them eat. And there was no longer there any hurtful thing in the pot. And there came a man over from Betharisa and brought to the man of Elohim 20 barley loaves and cakes of figs and of the first fruits. And he said, give to the people and let them eat. And his servant said, why should I set this before 100 men? And he said, give to the people and let them eat. For thus says Yahuwah, they shall eat and leave. And they ate and left according to the word of Yahuwah. Okay, so now we're about to do chapter 5. Okay. Let's see here. Do we have... All right. Now, Naaman, the captain of the army of Syria, was a great man before his master and highly respected, because by him Yahuwah had given salvation to Syria. The man was mighty in strength, a leper, and the Syrians went forth in the small bands and took captive out of the land of Yasharal a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said to her mistress, oh, that my master were before the prophet of Elohim in Samaria, then he would recover him from his leprosy. And she went and told her master and said, thus and thus spoke the maid from the land of Yasharal. And the king of Samaria said to Naaman, go, and I will send a letter to the king of Yasharal. And he went and took in his hand 10 talents of silver and 6,000 pieces of gold and 10 talents of raiment. And he brought the letter to the king of Yasharal, saying, now then, as soon as this letter shall reach you, behold, I have set to you my servant Naaman, and you shall recover him from his leprosy. And it came to pass that when the king of Yasharal read the letter, he rent his garments and said, am I Elohim to kill and to make alive? That this man sends to me to recover a man of his leprosy? Consider, however, I pray you, and see that this man seeks occasion against me. And it came to pass when Elisha heard that the king of Yasharal had rent his garments, he sent to the king of Yasharal, saying, wherefore has you rent your garments? Let Naaman, I pray thee, come to me, and let him now that know that there is a prophet in Yasharal. So Naaman came with horse and chariot and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, go and wash 7 times in Jordan, and your flesh shall return to you, and you shall be cleansed. And Naaman was angry and departed and said, he will by all means come out to me and stand and call the name of his Elohim and lay his hand upon the face and recover the leper. Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the rivers of Yasharal? May I not go and wash in them and be cleansed? And he turned and went away in a rage. And his servants came near and said to him, the prophet had spoken a great thing to you. Would you not perform it? Yet he was but said to you, wash and be cleansed. So Naaman went down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the word of Elisha, and his flesh returned to him as the flesh of a little child. He was cleansed. And he and all his company returned to Elisha, and he came and stood before him and said, behold, I know that there is no mighty one or no Elohim in all the earth, save only in Yasharal. Now receive a baraka of your servant. And Elisha said, as Yahuwah lives, before whom I stand, I will not take and he pressed him to take, but he would not. And Naaman said, well then, if not, let there be given to your servant, I pray ye, the load of the yoke of mules, and you shall give me of the red earth. For henceforth your servant will not offer burnt offering or sacrifice to other mighty ones, but only to Yahuwah, by reason of these things, or this thing. And I let Yahuwah be propitious to your servant. Interesting. So that literally that would be, let Yahuwah be atonement to your servant. When my master goes into the house of Raymond to worship there, and he shall lean on my hand, and I shall bow down in the house of Remen when he bows down in the house of Remen. Even let Yahuwah, I pray, be merciful to your servant in this matter. That's interesting. Propitious versus pardon. Interesting. Because in the Greek New Testament, it says that Yahusha is the propitiation of our sins. So I find that interesting. Verse 19. And Elisha said to Naaman, go in peace, and he departed from him a little way. And Gehazi, the son, a servant of Elisha, said, behold, my servant has spared this Syrian Naaman, so as not to take his hand. He has brought, as I will surely run after him and take somewhat from him. Whoops. I did not mean to do that. There we go. Verse 21. So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and Naaman saw him running after him and turned back from his chariot to meet him. And Gehazi said, all is well, my master has sent me, behold, now are there come to me 2 young men of the sons of the prophets from Mount Ephraim. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver, 2 changes of raiment. And Naaman said, take 2 talents of silver. He took 2 talents of silver in 2 bags and 2 changes of raiment and put them upon 2 of his shoulders, and they bore them before him. And he came to a secret place and took them from their hands and laid them up in the house and dismissed the men. And he went in himself and stood before his master, and Elisha said to him, wherefore Gehazi said, your servant has not been here or there. And Elisha said to him, went not my heart with you when the man returned from his chariot to meet you? And now you have received silver, and now you have received raiment and olive yards and vineyards and sheep and oxen and men servants and maid servants. Lepers also of Naaman shall cleave to you and to your seed forever. And he went out from his presence leprous like snow. Okay. All right. Okay. And the sons of the prophets said to Elisha, behold now, the place of wherein we dwell before you is too narrow for us. Let us go, we pray ye, unto Jordan, and take there every man a beam, and make for ourselves a habitation there. Okay. And he said, go. And one of them said gently, come with your servants. And he said, I will go. Oh, my bad. I'm reading chapter 6. My bad. We're not doing 6 today. My bad. Chapter 7, guys. Yeah. Don't ask why, but whoever made this Haftarah document is like skipping 6 and going to 7. So chapter 7. And yeah, I don't know. And Elisha said, "Hear thou the word of Yahuwah, thus says Yahuwah, as at this time tomorrow, a measure of fine flour for a shekel, 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gates of Samaria." The officer on whose hand the king rested answered Elisha and said, "Behold, Yahuwah shall make floodgates in heaven. Might this thing be?" And Elisha said, "Behold, you shall see with your eyes, but shall not eat thereof." Interesting. Floodgates. Doesn't mention floodgates in the Masoretic. That's kind of interesting. And I remember back in the church, they would always have these songs, "Let the floodgates of heaven open up."
Floodgates.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the NIV seems to be very favorable towards the Septuagint when you read the NIV in the Old Testament. They're very favorable towards the LXX. And there were 4 leprous men by the gate of the city. One said to his neighbor, "Why sit we here until we die? If we should say, 'Let us go into the city,' when there is famine in the city, we shall die there. And if we shall sit here, then we shall die. Now then, come in and let us fall upon the camp of the Syrians. If they should take us alive, then we shall live. And if they put us to death, then we shall die." And they rose up while it was yet night to go into the camp of Syria, and they came into the camp of the came into a part of the camp of Syria, and behold, there was no man there. For Yahuwah made the army of Syria hear a sound of chariots, sound of horses, sound of a great army. And a man said to his fellow, "Now is the king of Yasharal hired against us, the kings of the Hittites, the kings of Egypt, and the kings of Egypt, to come against us." Interesting. So we know for a fact the Hittites have not been utterly obliterated, because the Hittites are actually still alive at this point. In the time of, mind you, this is in 2 Kings, okay? So this is way after. Okay. And they arose and fled while it was yet dark, and left their tents and their horses and their donkeys in the camp as they were, and fled for their lives. And these lepers entered a little way into the camp, and went into one tent, and ate and drank, and took their silver and gold and raiment. And they went and returned there, and entered into another tent, and took there, and went and hid. And one man said to his neighbor, "We are not doing well. Thus this day is a day of glad tidings. And we hold our peace and are waiting till the morning light, and shall find mischief. Now then, come, and let us go in the city, or report to the house of the king." So they went and cried toward the gate of the city, and reported to them, saying, "We went into the camp of Syria, and behold, there is not there a man, nor a voice of a man, only horses tied and donkeys, their tents as they were." And their porters cried out and reported to the house of the king within. And the king rose up by night and said to his servants, "I will now tell you what the Syrians have done to us." And they knew that we are hungry. And they have gone forth from the camp and hidden themselves in the field, saying, "They will come out of the city, and we shall catch them alive and go into the city." And one of his servants answered and said, "Let them now take of the horses that were left, which were left here. Behold, they are a number left to all the multitude of Yasharal. We will send there and see." So they took horsemen, and the king of Yasharal sent after the king of Assyria, saying, "Go and see." And they went after them, even to the Jordan. Behold, all the way was full of garments and vessels with the Syrians had cast away in their panic, and the messengers returned and brought word to the king. And the people went out and plundered the camp of Syria, and a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, according to the word of Yahuwah, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel. And the king appointed the officer on whose hand the king leaned over the gate. And the people trampled on him in the gate, and he died as the man of Elohim had said, who spoke when the messenger came down to him. So it came to pass, as Elisha had spoken to the king, saying, 2 measures of barley for a shekel, and a measure of fine flour for a shekel, it shall be as this time tomorrow in the gate of Samaria. And the officer answered Elisha and said, Behold, Yahuwah makes floodgates in heaven. Shall this thing be? And Elisha said, Behold, you shall see with your eyes, but you shall not eat thereof. And it was so, for the people trampled on him in the gate, and he died. That is the end of our prophets portion, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just double check here to make sure that we don't have any other prophets portions here. Okay, so let me just see here. Let me just open up my, I thought I opened my Kindle up before, but somehow it's not open. Okay. Anyway, let's just give it a second here for my program to open up here so we can look and see where we're left off at, what portion we have next. Okay. No, actually, we got more for our prophets portion. I'll do a separate recording, but we're going to be doing Ezekiel 23 to 27 next, and Proverbs 23 to 27 also. So there will be 4 chapters from Proverbs, 4 chapters from Ezekiel. So please stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back shortly, but I'm going to have to start a recording, and we might take a 20-30 minute intermission just to have people be able to stretch, and just if anyone needs a drink of water or anything. So we'll be back in a little bit, about a half an hour, all viewers and listeners. So please stay tuned. We'll be back for our last 2 portions for today. Shalom.